It's a proud moment for the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis. A lot of effort and work went into getting to the stage. Um, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and the Nevis Disaster Management Department, along with some of our stakeholders and local consultants, worked tirelessly to ensure that we met the three requirements of the board when we submitted the application to become tsunami ready. We had to ensure that the country had standard operating procedures as it relates to responding to the threat or impact of a tsunami. We had to ensure that we had tsunami evacuation maps which identified to the residents and citizens where the assembly points are, where the evacuation routes that would take them to these assembly points, and also to identify the tsunami hazard zones which are usually located on the coastline. The challenges were because government had to approve of the various stages, waiting for approval from cabinet. I mean, the ministers, all busy people, and so sometimes we kind of had long waits for certain approvals. In addition, because tsunami is a relatively new phenomenon to the Caribbean region, um, we recognized that we ourselves had to do a lot of research with assistance from regional and international consultants to help us to better understand our geological location and how much of a risk we are at in terms of being affected by a tsunami. And in simple words, by seismologists and consultants who assisted with the bathymetric data. For us in St. Kitts and Nevis, it is should be treated as it's not a matter of if we are going to get a tsunami. It is a matter of when. And when, we must ensure that we are prepared, that we're prepared to respond, we're prepared to, um, I guess, rebuild, and we are prepared to mitigate against all measures. The important thing, I think, one of the lessons learned for us was the fact that we had to embark on an aggressive education and awareness campaign. And that campaign included encouraging persons to understand the serious nature of the hazard of a tsunami, understanding what can cause a tsunami. And St. Kitts and Nevis, we have a volcano. It has been dormant, but dormancy don't necessarily mean that it cannot, affect us. At the same time, we occasionally get the earthquakes, and as reported by um, the seismic unit in Trinidad, that we are going to be seeing an increase in seismic activity. Our saving grace in St. Kitts and Nevis is that we have several monitoring stations that the seismic unit assists us with. We have the technology in place to assist us. And so we kind of wanted the general public to know that it is important for you to have that type of information. In addition, with acquiring the tsunami evacuation maps, we wanted persons to understand what the maps meant to us as a country and how we use the maps to be able to evacuate within a timely manner, and knowing where certain safe zones were and what is to be expected when you get to these areas. And of course, disaster management fraternity in St. Kitts and Nevis is very small, so we depend heavily on our district and parish volunteers, and so they too have been included in the campaign of education and awareness, as well as the media, because of the role that they play. And so upon returning to St. Kitts and Nevis, one of the first things that will happen is that I will hand the certificate to its rightful owner, Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris. He is the Minister responsible for national security, under which disaster management falls. And we hope that it will be displayed in an area that helps us to recognize that we have had an achievement, of course, and it doesn't stop with receiving recognition for tsunami readiness, because there's so much more to be done. This is a continuous exercise, and we've committed ourselves in disaster management to follow through and to ensure that the general population of both St. Kitts and Nevis are exposed to any new information, any new technology, and any type of support that can be had from having this type of recognition. My advice would be to go for it. Tsunami readiness, having embarked on the exercise helps you to understand locally what's happening with in terms of the general understanding and the level of preparedness that is put into any hazard, but more so a hazard as critical as tsunami. I think one of the things that drove us in St. Kitts and Nevis was a what-if scenario where we lack an alerting mechanism, and the what-if scenario was, what if we got a tsunami, and what if it came in the night? Can you imagine? And so when we thought about it that way, we said, we really need to put certain mechanisms in place. And in starting the process, being recognized as tsunami ready allowed us several avenues to be able to achieve some of the goals and attain some of the resources, such as tsunami hazard signs, to be erected around both islands to be able to guide the population and help them to understand what type of actions might be required from them in the event that we are threatened by a tsunami. And so I will really encourage other states to, take the opportunity. It is a lot of work, but in the long run, it will be very beneficial. We've just received recognition, but we started receiving benefits way before we got to the recognition ceremony. For Caribbean states, we are all surrounded by water, and the tsunami is a water hazard. And so we have to make sure that if we can't prevent it, that we prepare for it or we mitigate.